Hey there, Saber fans, Shamim here. It is Thin Neck time once again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 89Sabers version of the Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber from Episode 4. This was designed and made by Peter Zhang of 89Sabers, and I actually picked this up from one of his distributors here in the United States, Justin Marshall from Saber Bay. So he has a few more of these in stock, so if at the end of the review you think you may want to get one, I strongly recommend ordering through one of the US distributors like Saber Bay, and not directly from 89Sabers, as his slow lead times and difficulties with customer service communication have been well documented at this point. So the product is nice, dealing with the customer service not as nice at this time. So order through one of the US distributors if you're in the US. I think KR Sabers also stocks some of 89Sabers hilts in the UK. So depending on where you are, you can pick it up from one of the other distributors who ship very, very quickly and are much easier to work with. Anyway, let's talk about the actual hilt itself. As I mentioned, it's Episode 4, Obi-Wan Kenobi. This was an FX installable hilt. It's currently installed with a Prism 5.1 soundboard. Got a royal blue, green, white Tri-Cray XP 2 LED, 28 millimeter high bass SM speaker. That's right, I said 28 millimeter. For a couple years now on my channel, the only Episode 4 Obi-Wan lightsabers that I've been installing and reviewing have been the Korbanth K4. And those were designed by Jeff Parks of Park Sabers. Very poorly designed by Jeff Parks, I might add. Y'all remember that the first time I installed it, I put a blade in there, I swung it around once or twice, and the blade went flying out because there was like that much blade retention depth. So we had to figure out a workaround for that. The internal diameter from the pommel all the way up to the grenade section was all 7/8 inch, which means you could only fit a puny little 20 millimeter speaker in a pommel that is massive and could easily fit a 31 millimeter speaker if you bored it out, but the threads were 7/8 inch, so you would have to completely remachine the pommel if you wanted a larger speaker in the K4. And of course, the 7/8 inch inner diameter meant that at the time that it was released, larger boards like Crystal Focus or Prism 4 could not fit. You were just out of luck if you wanted one of those. None of those problems exist on the 89Sabers version of Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 4. I'm just going to get my one complaint out of the way at the beginning. The clamp is a satin finish, the same as on the 89Sabers Graflex that I sort of complained about then. It's not wrong, it's just my personal preference is a non-satin finish. Either a matte finish or a chrome finish is what I personally like, matte being like the brushed standard finish. So I don't know why he's gone with this sort of satin finish on his clamps. It seems to be the same clamp from the Graflex and now on the Obi-Wan Kenobi. But that's really my only complaint about the hilt. Otherwise, the hilt is fantastic. The internal design is fantastic. The switch assembly is fantastic. Blade holder is really, really fantastic. You know, with the Korbanth, you had to unscrew this emitter and then it would go down and then you could go in there with your blade retention screw, and it was just a weird assembly and it was difficult to manage. In this assembly is much, much, much nicer. There's no unscrewing required. There's a very small blade retention screw. You can barely even see it with the chrome finish. It's hidden right underneath this lip. See, right there. You can just barely make it out with the chrome finish. It's really, really nice. And that locks the blade in place. One thing I noticed as I was comparing it to a Roman Props MK1, which is the standard by which all other Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsabers are measured, and I have an MK1 here and I'll do a comparison in a bit, is that this wind vane and neck section seems to be different than the MK1 British grenade that Romans is based off of. I don't know if Peter took artistic liberties, of his own accord, or if he used a different style grenade as the inspiration. Because I've seen those old British grenades, several of them, where the neck portion and the wind vane section are different. Let's just, now that we're talking about it, we might as well go ahead and take a look at. So this is an MK1 up here. And you'll notice a very, very sharp lip down here at the bottom compared to a much more curved lip right there. There's also the fact that there is text stamped across this, let me move this out of the way. Let's see if we can get this showing up on camera. You can see the stamping of the text there on camera. It reads, where's the beginning? The Cotton Powder Company Limited, London, Hales Patent. So I've read the name Hales in connection with these grenades before, and I don't know enough about the history to be able to say one way or another how Hales compares in accuracy to the vintage British number 3 MK1 grenade that was used. I imagine that it's sort of the same family, but maybe a different model, because the necks are very, well, not very different, but they are noticeably different. There's a little bulge right there. You can see it there. A little bulge right above the wind vane. And that bulge is a lot more pronounced here on the 89Sabers version. The thin neck above the wind vane is also a little bit longer on the 89Sabers version. So this, from the wind vane up, this thin neck right in here is a little bit longer and not as short as it is on the accurate MK1. Grenade section seems to be about the same length. Let me put this up here so you can see it a bit better. Graflex clamp is a Graflex clamp. This booster section, the ridges on the booster section here on the 89 version appear to be thicker than they are on the MK1. These appear to be very, very thin fins. They've also got that hole right there on one side and on the other side. So that's accurate to the actual booster section. Those holes do not appear here on the booster section. It also should be noted that this section in between the booster section and the pommel, on the 89Sabers version, there's no threading visible on the black booster. And it is much shorter than the exposed threading, which is accurate. You see the little hole there in between, right there in the threading. You can see where my finger's at in the booster section. That section is much longer than it is here on the 89Sabers version. In terms of the pommel, this is my first time actually comparing them. So the cubes on the 89Sabers version are a bit rounder than sort of there. It's not sharp on the Roman props version, but the lines are a bit more well defined. And the bottom of the pommels look very similar, pretty identical. That little lip, okay, so there's a difference. This bottom end cap and then the cubes, you can see right there along my face. There's an angle that goes this way from the pommel, from the cubes down to the very tip. I don't know how well this is gonna show up. Right there-ish. Anyway, there is an angle there, whereas it's a flat 90-degree angle here. You can sort of see right along there. In between this end cap and the cubes, there's sort of a flat valley, whereas here it is a bit more angled. Those very, very, very minor differences. And Peter was not setting out to make a 1-to-1 scale MK1. Why would you do that when Roman has already made the best 1-to-1 scale replica of these vintage parts? Anyway, I want to talk about the actual hilt itself and how fun and easy it was to install. Just a little bit. It was really fun and easy to install. So it's a very wide inner diameter. It's the booster section is about 1.1 inches, and then it's larger up, or it's about the same size, if not larger, up here in the grenade section and the clamp. The pommel, I think, could easily house a 31 millimeter. I have a 28 millimeter in here, so this is the first time in several years, because I haven't yet installed a Roman props with electronics, but this is the first time in years, ever since the K4 came out, that I've had in episode 4, Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber, that sounds like an Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber should, in terms of the sound volume and the sound quality. It's painfully loud. That's what I want to talk about. The sound venting on this pommel is ingenious. Where are the sound vents? You can't tell. They are in between. This end cap here is held on, and there's a space in this little crack, right, going all the way around. And that same crack is accurate to, you know, the MK1. You've got that crack going around the face there. But the sound vents are hidden in there. It's just ingenious. Let me just unscrew the pommel and show you guys. There's also a lot of threading on the pommel. A lot of thin threading. So there's your nice 28mm speaker. But there, you can see my finger through, you know, coming in through the back there. And so that's where the sound vents are hidden. It's ingenious because you don't have to drill a big, you know, you don't have to drill holes in the face. You can have an accurate looking sync knob style pommel, but still get excellent sound venting. Let's also just take a quick look at this chassis. There's your recharge port. There's your SD card. So you notice the battery is not in the chassis. I've housed the battery up here in its own little, its own separate chassis up here in the grenade section. The wire is running down, and then this section where the battery would normally go on these Saberforge chassis that I've been printing and selling on my Etsy shop. Those slide over and around the rectangular switch assembly, which does stick out into the main hilt. So you got to line that up with the switches, and then it can slide all the way in. You can put your pommel back on. And I've talked enough without any buzzwow, so let's go ahead and get some buzzwow. These switches, again, I have to keep talking. It's a really, really nice design. With the Korbanth one, once you've installed the lightsaber, the clamp is never coming off again, because these transistors were little caps that would have to be super glued onto tactile switches, plungers, and that meant that you could never take those things off. In this case, these transistor greeblies are screws. Let me just undo the clamp, and my fingers are a bit. Anyway, I just started to get a little bit of the threading out, but I'm not going to go ahead and take it out. Anyway, you can unscrew these all the way out, and there are micro tactile switches inside the clamp. So once you take both of these transistor greebly screws out, you can take the booster and the pommel off, slide the clamp off. So even after it's been installed, if you don't like the satin clamp, or you want a different clamp, maybe one for whatever reason that doesn't have Graflex stamped across it, you can swap out a different pommel as long as you drill holes for these transistor greeblies to go back into. But that's very easy to do. And the holes on the clamp are not threaded. The threading happens inside the machined aluminum bit underneath the clamp. So that's a really cool feature, that you can swap out the clamp even after it's been fully installed. And then there's no danger of these, like the glue popping off or coming undone, because they're screwed in. It's really fantastic.
Hello there.
And it's got a nice, satisfying click to it. Oh, listen how nice and loud that is. Your top one is activation, bottom one is auxiliary. This blade plug I got from some third party. It did not come with a blade plug. And I may put a little bit of film there just to help diffuse the light, because it is still just, you know, there's no diffusion in there at all, so I may do that. But that's so painfully loud. I love it.
This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
I threw a look fun on there because this lightsaber design, of course, was used as a shared stunt for filming in episode 6. So got a green on there just for that. What else do we got?
One doesn't survive as long as I have by being foolish or unprepared.
Got a nice Rebels Obi-Wan Kenobi quote in there. And this is just gray meat. Oh. There's my battery, my speaker crackle. I really should charge these sabers before I do videos.
The Force will be with you. Always.
I've been waiting for you, Obi-Wan. We meet again at last.
Apologies for the speaker crackle.
Hello there.
And an episode 3 font. With a nice deep blue.
Hello there.
Back to episode 4. Let's just quick throw a blade in there. So like most ThinNecks these days that are relatively screen accurate, you have your LED up in the emitter, and that requires then a 1-inch thin-walled blade only to be used. So not a dueling hilt, but you get a nice bright blade and a really nice display or cosplay saber. And we're gonna hear the crackle, I'm sorry. This is such a great saber for a, and it's only like $25 more expensive than the K4. So, yeah, I see no reason to not get the 89Sabers version of the Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber as a mid-tier, budget-friendly version of Obi-Wan's A New Hope lightsaber. Obviously, if you're looking for 100% screen accuracy, Roman props, either the static version for internal and external 100% one-to-one screen accuracy, or the FX version, which is exterior 100% accuracy, interior hollowed out to accept electronics. One thing to note, I was just taking a look at the MK1 from Roman props, the FX version here that I have. The booster section internal diameter is about 1 inch. So it's a thinner internal diameter than the 89Sabers. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about chassis. The chassis solution I use for 89Sabers would not work on the MK1, but the MK1 has been around much longer than the 89Sabers version has, so there are plenty of good chassis options available for the MK1, the FX version. So that's by far top of the line, one-to-one screen accuracy if you want something hella accurate and with a nice weight to it. Even with a blade installed, the empty FX version of the MK1 is still heavier than the fully installed with a blade 89Sabers version. So just think how heavy the static one of the MK1 is. The 89 is maybe a millimeter or two taller overall. Oh, the lip up there at the emitter is also a little bit thicker on the 89Sabers version. I don't have the Greeblies installed on, or the transistors installed on the MK1 yet. But, yeah. Both of them really, really nice. Obviously, the MK1 is nicer because it's accurate. I can't go on enough about how wonderful the MK1 is. But if you're just looking for a very install-friendly Obi-Wan Kenobi and budget-friendly Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 4, I really have to give props to 89Sabers for a fantastic design. Just be sure to order from one of the other distributors who ship much faster and have better and more established customer service reputation. So yeah. Thank you all so much for watching. And may the Force be with you.